Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Sportstar podcast. This is your host Nihit Sachdeva, and joining me on this episode is my colleague Jonathan Selvaraj. This is an episode about the recent additions that the IOC, that is the International Olympic Committee, has announced with regards to the next Olympics, which are going to be held in Los Angeles in 2028. But specifically, we'll talk about one sport. Firstly, I'll just mention that they have introduced six new mixed gender events across archery, artistic gymnastics, athletics, rowing, golf, and table tennis. But in this episode, we are going to talk just about archery because it's not just they've introduced a mixed event. They've introduced a new category which they had been sort of ignoring for the longest time, which is compound archery. So let's just get on with it. Jonathan, welcome to the episode. And to begin this discussion, let's just tell our listeners if you can tell us what is the difference between compound archery and recurve archery. Recurve, almost all the Indians who have followed the Olympics for the longest time, they know about it a bit, but compound is not there, so they might not know. So what is the difference between recurve and compound?
So main difference between recurve and compound is the shape of the bow itself. Uh, like recurve bows are generally like compound bows, which usually have a trigger release. They have like camshafts. I mean, if you guys know what, like they have bunch of pulleys, which like whenever you draw a bow, you're basically storing energy in the limbs of the bow, and in a recurve bow, there's nothing to help you doing that. In when you're shooting compound, you have like a system of pulleys and cams which make it slightly easier to draw the bow. But the trade-off with this is that the target is much smaller for a compound archer. Like the target you're aiming at is much smaller compared to the target of a recurve bow. Also, recurve bow is shot over a longer distance, whereas a compound bow is shot over 50 meters, recurve is shot over 70 meters. So that's another difference. And I mean, until now, the thing is that most recreational shooters internationally, like shooting as a pastime, they shoot compound bow because it's a lot easier to get into. And recurve archery was usually very specific to the Olympics. Uh, that was the main thing, and I think that because recurve is, I mean, like compound bow is far more popular from a recreational perspective in Europe and USA. I think that's one of the main reasons why they want to bring it into the Olympics this time. And India has had like a lot of success in compound archery internationally. So in fact, last World Championships, there are 5 compound events: men, women, individual, men, women team, and mixed team. So India won 3 out of those 5 gold medals over there. We also had 5 medal events at the Asian Games, 2022 Asian Games, and India won all 5 gold over there. And South Korea, which is generally a powerhouse in recurve archery, because compound archery was not part of the Olympics, so they never prioritized it that much. And this is a common phenomenon. In fact, you should let me know if I'm answering questions which you might be having in the future, in the subsequently as well. But one of the concerns which compound archers used to have is uh, that they are not prioritized compared to say recurve archers, because Olympic bhagwan hota hai desh mein. Sorry, Olympics is like a like is the most number the most is the number one priority for most administrators in India. So once Asian Games, World Championships gets over, there's no real other competition. So recurve archers would get the priority in terms of funding, in terms of camps, despite the fact that recurve archers have had nothing like the kind of success which compound archers have had. And of course, the reason could be also because internationally, there are not a lot of countries who are taking compound as as seriously as they should have. Uh, but uh, I think that will change now. I think because compound is now part of the Olympics, so you'll see a lot of countries taking part in this in this particular event in the next World Championships going forward. And one thing which like a bunch of coaches have told me is that because compound is a lot easier to get into, like the entry. It's easier to pick up compound archery than recurve archery. So you're going to see a lot more competition inside 2 years, because the coaches told me that like 2 years is about what it takes to, like, if you in recurve it takes about 6 years to get into a high level of recurve archery. If 6 years of continuous practice, compound archery is something like 2 years. You need to practice a lot less, again because of the nature of the bow, as in you're not using the same muscles which you're using in recurve. You are, like, the lot of the load of the draw weight is taken up by the cams, so your focus is mostly aiming rather than controlling the bow as much. So a lot of coaches have said that just because we've had like a lot of medals over here doesn't guarantee that we are going to have the same results going forward, because a lot of countries are going to take it seriously, and because compound is relatively easier to get into. And again, we have to think remember the fact that all our gold medals at the world level, they've come in either men's team or their teams or individuals, but they're not come in mixed team. So mixed team is what is going to be part of the Olympics. So it will be interesting to see how India performs going forward. But the good thing for India's compound archers is that, like, a long goal, which dream which they had, has finally come true.
Yeah, it comes in a very sort of mixed week for them, because quite a few of them didn't get visa for the first stage of the Archery World Cup that's happening currently in the US. So that would have been a very disappointing news for them. But at the same time, getting the news that the the discipline that they've been practicing for the longest time is now going to be at the Olympics. So I think that will surely cheer them up. Now, coming to, of course, you said that now the countries which had not been taking it seriously will take it seriously more, and hence, if Indians are getting happy that we have done well compound in the past in other competitions, the Olympics won't be that easy now, because others will up their game. Uh, Now looking at India's uh, you know talent pool in compound, and it's a very strong talent pool, and you have just one event, just one mixed team event at the Olympics. So how do you see that panning out in the next 2 years, because you have people as experienced as Jyoti Surekha Venom and Abhishek Verma, and you have people as young as Aditi Swami, and Prathamesh, who had actually given up compound to go for the Olympic goal, and now he's saying we'll come back to compound and pretend that the last 6-7 months didn't happen.
Yeah, yeah. So in fact, Prathamesh is not the first compound archer to go into try and make it to recurve. So Rajat Chauhan, who was like the first Indian to win a individual silver at the World Championships in compound. He won World Championship silver in 2015. He had won gold in the Asian Games 1 year before. And 2015, within a few weeks after winning gold in the World Championships, he switched to recurve. And he not only switched to recurve, he got the Olympic rings tattooed on his forearm, because he had that kind of a jazba of going to Olympics. But the main thing is that recurve archery is very different from compound archery. So even though he trained for 2 years in recurve archery, he could never get the same kind of results. He got into like the national level, like he made the Rajasthan state team, which is not a small thing, but it's obviously like there's a difference between making it to a state team and becoming an international medalist. So he gave that up within like 2 years. 2 years, they said come back for Asian Games. So he went back to Asian Games, won another silver over there, and then hasn't made his way back to recurve archery. And again, as in, like, you can see the reason why everyone wants to go into recurve, because end of the day it was a medal Olympic event, and like it or not, as in, for the number one goal for most athletes in India is the Olympics. So yeah, so he was not the first guy. I think it's going to be interesting, because India has the advantage which India has. It's got like has a first mover advantage. Like, a lot of countries will be playing catch up. I'm not saying that it will be impossible for them to catch up, because we have 3 years to go before the Olympics, and 3 years is more than enough time to have, like, to get a strong compound. And the thing is, you just need one of each. You need one man, one woman. So it is technically you have a lot of time to get. I mean, you have time to get ready, and you don't have to get that many people ready for it. So so compound is going to, like, just because we have done well in the past, there's no surety that we will do well in the future. But like you said, I mean, like the fact that Indians, like the women's compound team, only Jyoti got like a visa to go to the US. I mean, that just shows where the priority was. Like the recurve archers all got visas towards the end, even though they were facing the same issues. The compound archers didn't get, and now they're going to be part of the Olympics. So I don't see the same issues coming for them as well. As in, there's going to be a lot more their complaints, their requirements will be taken a lot more seriously. The fact that they didn't always have. I've had, like, I think I've spoken to Rajat a little bit back, and he mentioned that after the Asian Games, when they'd go for, they don't get like corporate sponsors, because again, like all the big companies which sponsor archers, they sponsor recurve archers. They never sponsored compound archers. So I mean, it was entirely, they were dependent on their family or this sport government to help them with like equipment and stuff. Uh, so yeah, that changes now. And so yeah, Rajat was telling me that like they'd go, and then the officer will tell them ki acha aapka next event kya hai, and he says that we didn't really have an answer because there was no next event. Asian Games was kind of it for them. uh, but now they have events, and the thing is that because it wasn't that India lacked compound archers, even though that they were that they weren't enough. uh, I mean, even though it was not, they didn't have like Olympic level, rewards, but they still had like a lot of. I mean, there was still like a lot on offer. So, Rajat Chauhan is a DSP in Rajasthan Police. It's not a small position. Jyoti Venom is an IAS level officer in Telangana. Uh, so, I mean, like, there was plenty for these guys to work for. So it wasn't that, I mean, obviously they wanted to go for the Olympics also, but there was also already a lot of incentive for them. So one of the advantages which India has is that it has a lot of players already in the system. So we don't have to do anything new. But I mean, I think it's going to be interesting because compound archery is already a uh, very high scoring sport at the world level also. So you have like you have matches of 150, and you have like people scoring 150 out of 150. So I think it'll be not be surprising if we are going to see people going into shoot offs. You're seeing people being decided by inner tens, uh, which which will be interesting. So again, I see the competition standard going very high now.
You've also spoken to recently some of the athletes, and this story will come in the magazine. But if you can share some snippets, what does this mean for an athlete like Jyoti Surekha Menon in like specifically, because she has achieved so much for Indian compound archery, and yet we always read this almost every year when the list comes out for the all these sports awards, and you have these complaints like she's not getting the recognition she deserves. This, do you think this changes
Yeah,
a bit for her?
I mean, it'll obviously. I mean, once you get into it's not. It's so. In fact, even like this, the Tops CEO has mentioned that that they will get these guys into the Tops program before they weren't part of the Tops program, because they were not part of the Olympic program. So now you'll get these guys over here. Jyoti has said this many times. Rajat has said this many times that they won all the medals that were there to be won, but they don't have an Olympic medal. So now they get a chance to get that Olympic medal as well. So yeah, as in, like, if you're one, like like Jyoti has like some 9 world medals. So I mean, like, one Olympic medal will be like the icing on the cake for someone like her. And I mean, like, the interesting thing will be there's no guarantee that just Jyoti will go through, despite the fact that she's so experienced and she's achieved so much. There's so many good young shooters from India who are pushing their uh, you know pushing for a place in the team. And of course, I mean, the tragedy is that we didn't get visas for the women archers. So I mean, like, it'll be interesting to see, like, if we had like a good set of people, we'd see what our mixed team might look like. I mean, we still have Jyoti over there, so she'll probably partner with another male archers in Florida. We're having a World Cup going on, so we might see what our mixed team might look like. But I mean, don't see this as being the only mixed team that we work. I mean, we'll next year with the Asian Games, we'll probably see who our best archers are, and in fact, not even next year, like closer to the 2020 Olympics, we'll have a better idea.
Who do you think would be India's strongest competition when it comes to compound archery at LA 2028?
Yeah, so I mean, it sort of depends on how we do because mixed team is very different from not very different, but it's different from from other events, and India hasn't done that well in mixed team. I mean, we have done okay. We got silver medal in 2021. 2020 2023, I think USA won. So I mean, the US is obviously very strong. Colombia is very strong in this event. I think we got gold. Colombia got gold in 2021, and I think they got silver in 2023. So it's not like that there are there's no challenge. There's like lot of different countries have a lot of good archers in compound, and because the compound is like a fairly popular, it's a popular recreational thing compared to recurve. So I mean, last time around, I mean, last when we got 3 out of 5 gold medals in mixed team, we lost to USA. USA won, I think, the tournament. We lost to them by 1 point. So again, it's not like a lot. The margins are very minor in these particular events. So I mean, like there are a lot of countries which can push us, but I think India has like some really good individual archers. So we'll always be in the top 3, top 4. So we'll always be in the mix for a medal. I mean, if not gold, we'll always be in the like potentially top 4, top 5 at least we'll be there. If I'm not wrong, we were like qualified in first place in the last World Championships. So I mean that made us top seed, but ultimately we lost to USA. So but even over there, we were we were I mean we were very competitive. So I mean we'll always be in a medal mix, which wasn't the case in say recurve archery, where if you get to a medal round, it's a very big thing. Like we got to the medal round in mixed team in Paris in recurve archery, and that was seen as like easily our best performance as in archery. So yeah, as in I mean there are competitors, but again like the thing which like a lot of coaches says we're always like top 3, top 5 so far. So yeah.
One more question. I don't see it happening from the Indian side, but do you think is there a possibility of countries like Korea and China possibly asking their best recurve archers to try their hand at compound as well, so that they can compete in both disciplines? Is it possible, do you think?
I think it's very unlikely because it's like saying that well, can a freestyle wrestler compete in Greco-Roman?
Greco-Roman,
I
yeah.
mean, technically it's possible, but you had one or two examples of that happening in the history of World Championships. Forget the Olympics. Olympics has never happened. And recurve and compound are like they're very different. They're very different sports. Recurve archers sort of transition slightly easier than compound archers going into recurve, but it still doesn't make it like that you can do both because they're just very different. They're just very different. You see the bows, you see how they shoot, you see the techniques. They're completely different. So
But you
yeah, I
said
don't
that,
see that happening.
but you said that compound is slightly easier to master. So in
Yeah,
that
it
sense,
is easier to master. It is easier to master, but in the sense that unless they quit now, but if they're quitting now, then they're obviously not going to be at the highest level in their country.
no, I'm not saying
That's why they
quitting.
would.
I'm not saying quitting. I'm saying maybe competing in both disciplines.
Yeah, they won't do both simultaneously. That would not happen. That's and I think I've heard like some recurve archers they start shooting compound. Just very recently there was a very famous archer in recurve who decided she was going to shoot compound, but she decided she was shooting as an amateur. She was not shooting professionally. So I mean, even they know. I mean, there's a you can I mean you can switch between them, but even then it will be hard. But you'll almost never be doing both simultaneously.
Hmm. Another thing, so now do you think now more people who were not interested in archery, but now they get to know that this is slightly easier to uh, uh, do this sort of archery? Does it make it tougher for the existing athletes because there will be a lot more competition right now?
I think that will be a good thing that that you'll have a lot more compound archers going in. So we have next 2 years to decide, to see who will come. I think that if they are going to come in, they're going to be coming in now itself. So they'll probably be starting now itself at the latest. Uh, yeah, as in there will be more competition inside India at least, like within compound archers. And then they'll just have like a lot more motivation right now. That that their goal isn't 2026 Asian Games. It can be 2028 Olympics, so they can actually start taking it a lot more, pushing themselves a lot more seriously right now.
What about the equipment? Do you know how affordable is it for somebody who has never done archery? Is like easily affordable and so that you can get
It's
these
not
new.
affordable. It costs in the multiple of lakhs, but
Hmm.
it's still a relatively easy. So the thing is that if you're investing that kind of money, it's still an easier sport to pick up than say you're shooting recurve, where you're going to be spending something like 4 or 5 lakhs, and it will take you like you know 3 or 4 years to get good enough at it. So like even though compound will cost roughly the same amount, like you'll realize very quickly that you can get good within a couple of years at it.
Hmm. And yeah, lastly, now I think this year then becomes really important. Now this whole Olympic cycle becomes really important for Indian archery. What are your expectations from the Indian archers now? Because they'll have this at the back of their mind that now we are fighting for a spot at the Olympics. So it's just not it's just not something that ends at the Asian Games. You have something to look forward after
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. I think the real change we're going to see is going to be after the Asian Games because until now their season sort of ended over there, and now it's going to be just like midway for their season. It's going to be midway for their cycle, not the end of their cycle.
Hmm.
So that's one big change we're going to see, and we're going to see a lot more support for them from different sponsors. From if I'm not wrong, probably a bunch of sponsors are already reaching out to these guys as we are speaking, deciding to sign them as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think getting that tag of an Olympian for a compound archer when you've learned all your life that, it's not a Olympic sport, to suddenly have that, I think that's going to be a great feeling for them. And the two, I think
Correct.
we are not sure yet how many teams per country will be allowed. I think so, right? They'll not announce how
Yeah.
many teams. So yeah, so
Yeah, but
maybe
one
two
only.
teams, maybe one or two teams. Yeah. So
Yeah,
interesting to see. But that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining, Jonathan. Hope to have more such conversations soon.
absolutely.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Sportstar podcast. If you liked it, do give us a rating on Spotify. And if you're watching it on YouTube, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will be back with a new episode soon.